Hey everyone, Dave from Summit Racing back with you at our virtual Super Summit in the Midway again. And this time we've got Dave Kass from QA1. Dave, how you doing?
Doing well, Dave. Thanks for having us on. Really enjoy it.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. Yeah, so we were talking earlier just about a lot of the QA1 kits and components. And we were talking a little bit about customers that want to do a suspension upgrade, maybe piece by piece as their budget allows. So in addition to talking about some of your product, I thought maybe it'd be good to talk about, what order or how should people approach doing an upgrade on their suspension as budget allows. So in your mind, where would you start with something like that?
Well, that's a great question because, these days with, a lot of the products and cars that we support, you could upgrade your car, dozens of different ways, right? And there's truthfully no wrong way to do it. But one of the things that we've found is there's certain pieces that if you start with first will really optimize your experience as you upgrade the car and really allows you to focus on what makes the biggest bang for the buck first. Because like you said, a lot of our full vehicle suspension kits, it's basically one part number, one and done. It covers the entire vehicle front to back. But depending on what your circumstances are, that may not work for you. You may not be able to set aside the time allocation that's needed to update the entire suspension front to rear. It may not be in the budget as you've kind of spaced out how you're going to build your car. So what should you focus on first? That's it's a question our tech teams get all the time, right? And so, one of the things that we try to do when we put our kits together is we kind of systematically think through those thoughts and how people should approach their cars. So one of the things that, I think is first and foremost and really important is a lot of the cars that we're working on, they're 40, 50, 60 years old in some cases. We should start the suspension upgrades by let's do a visual inspection of what we have today, right? What's the condition of our OEM parts? What maybe needs replacing because it's worn out or simply deemed unsafe. If you have some ball joints that are completely worn out, maybe some bushings in your trailing arms are just completely shot so that you have some play in your rear end or different things. Let's find that stuff out first. And that might start answering some of the first questions we had naturally just because they need to be done for safety, right? So we do a lot of that first. But let's assume that your car has been maintained over the years. It has, everything is in good working order. It's safe, but you want to make those performance upgrades. You're going to drive the car more. You want to have more fun with it. Maybe dabble in a little bit of racing here and there. Where should you start your energy? And we're a big believer that shocks are the number one thing you should start with. It is the best seat of the pants improvement you can make to your vehicle. Many of the shocks that not only QA1 offers, but the types of things you can get is you can get things that have adjustable valving on them. So you can tune it to be really nice on the street. You can tune it to be very nice and perform really well on the racetrack, whether that be autocrossing, drag racing, or something else. And that upgrade alone is what's really going to set your project off in motion and give you the best bang for the buck.
So that the new technology really gives you that flexibility to tune to exactly what you want to do with these shocks and the coilover systems. Go back a little bit and talk about the change in the types of tires we use.
Oh, goodness.
How that plays into it.
Bias ply tires back in the day was something that a lot of vehicles had right from the get-go. Now, with us going to more of the radial style tires and actually oftentimes even adding additional width and contact patch, that's changed the way that vehicles drove. I mean, way back when, a lot of vehicles had 0 degrees of caster from factory, so it made it really easy to turn the wheel. Right. And now these days, what you're seeing is more, 3, 4, 5 degrees of caster being built into the vehicles just so it helps the vehicle go down the highway better. That straight line stability. You're not wandering with the wheel quite as much. I have a old pickup similar to this one here. And I remember before we started doing any upgrades to it, going on the highway, it was just a constant chasing of the wheel, right? And I was shocked by the upgrade and the difference going to just tubular control arms made to the vehicle, uh, just in how I can almost let go of the wheel and the truck just tracked nice and true. Had a very positive feel. It was much more predictable, and honestly, I enjoyed driving the truck more. So.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously the tires being a game changer, starting down that path with shocks and coilovers. Talk a little bit about what QA1 has to offer and how somebody might choose a product of yours for their application.
Yeah, absolutely. So, on the coilover, shock and coilover standpoint, QA1 has a lot of offerings depending on what application you have. So, for the sake of the discussion, the I guess performance muscle cars of the 60s, 70s, and 80s is something that is all too common. And one of QA1's staple products that is such a great package is our Pro Coil Systems. Now, what these are is they bolt right back into the factory location on many of your popular GM cars. We have a version for several of the Ford platforms as well. But what this does, it packages the QA1 preferred adjustable valving in with something that gives you adjustable ride height. And that is so incredibly valuable because if you think about it, a lot of these cars, they sat like four-wheel drives from the factory, and now you have the opportunity to get them down to more of a desirable ride height that we want today. And so you have the option of going from that stock traditional look all the way down to 2 inches lower. And it's a really easy to bolt in system. And you can install it probably both sides in a Saturday afternoon. So really easy to do. On the valving standpoint, they're really easy to adjust. We got tons of resources out there to help you. But ultimately, think of it as a firmer, softer dial. And so if you're going to hop on the power tour and go for a long cruise, you might run it a little bit softer. If you're, beating around the back roads of your area and you want something more firm and aggressive, all you got to do is turn that knob and you have a completely different car on your hands, which is really fun. And you can make those adjustments to valving right on the car. Super easy.
You guys actually had a new technology come out pretty recently to make adjustments easy. I guess before we move on, just touch on that a little bit as well.
Yeah, so QA1 recently came out with what we call our Mod Series shock. And what it is, it's a game changer in adjustable shocks because it comes with these different modules that have different valve packs, valving ranges built right into them. And so you can now have a purpose-tuned drag race shock on your car. In the matter of about 2 minutes, you can pop that valve pack out because all the valving's right there and pop in a new valve pack that's going to be more catered towards street driving or something different. There's no other shock on the market that could do that same thing. It utilizes quick tune technology, which basically allows us, like I said, to have that dry valve pack separate from that of the piston inside of the shock. So it's a really neat technology. That's our Mod Series shock.
That's fantastic. Yeah, we've done some videos on that already. It's a great technology. So moving on then from the shock springs, next up on the laundry list of modifications would be what?
After you get done with the shocks and springs, you're going to start to find that driving the car was a lot more fun than it was before. You're going to be pushing the car harder into corners than you once did. You're going to be, just pushing the envelope a little bit further. And so sway bars are the next logical piece that you want to focus in on. And QA1 is a whole line of sway bars, both front and rear, for a lot of your domestic muscle cars, classic pickups, whether it be the Ford F100 platform, like what's behind me right here. The C10s, we have a whole line of sway bars for those as well, all the way through the 88 to 98 OBS pickup trucks, you name it. But sway bars, I particularly like them because QA1 has a tune system front and rear that you can install, goodness, in 30 minutes. Sway bars are super easy to install. You can do it with your stock control arms, and they make just a world of a difference to the car that you're driving. And the nice thing is it comes with all brand new polyurethane bushings in them. They're made right here in the United States, right in Lakeville, Minnesota, where we make our shocks and other suspension components. but ease of installation, benefit to you as a driver, they're just a great system to look at if you're looking at just kind of upgrading in a progression type state.
Okay. Yeah, you mentioned the bushings in there as well. Obviously, an important piece of the puzzle there as well. And you guys go with the all polyurethane then?
Yep, polyurethane. And bushings are extremely important because from the factory they came with kind of a low diameter, rubber bushing, right? And now picture 50 years of road wear on those. Those things are worn out. Right. And if you have flex in your bushings, well, that's taken away from the spring rate in your sway bar, right? So by upgrading to a polyurethane bushing, it has that stiffer compliance so that it allows the sway bar to do what it's designed to do, and that's to resist that body roll of the instant center. So what we've done is we've teamed up with Energy Suspension. They're a staple in this industry for making really high quality polyurethane products for many, many years. And so we use them in all of our sway bar systems that we have.
Okay. Diameter wise for applications, what are the options there? Does it just depend on the application, or do you give multiple options?
It depends on the application, but I think that's an interesting point to discuss because sway bars are not a one size fits all. Like if we put an order in for our manufacturing team to build sway bars, they don't just pull we don't have just one size tubing on the shelf they go and pull from. Our engineers have spent a lot of time testing different vehicles and deciding what, not even just bar diameter, but what wall thicknesses do we need to be considering to get the stiffness that we're desiring, both front and rear. So the amount of engineering and time that gets spent into just qualifying that material is pretty impressive, to say the least.
Okay. So after sway bars, then we move up toward control arms, or what would you say is next?
Yeah, control arms actually kind of that next step. Like I said, with the previous upgrades you just did, you're going to be pushing that car harder, right? And, thought process wise, you may now have been in the consideration phase of changing to a different wheel and tire combination that's maybe a little bit stickier than what you had before, maybe a little bit wider than what you had before. That further enables you to push that vehicle into the corner more. And what you might be looking at then is going to a set of tubular control arms, again, to optimize that geometry that you have there in that vehicle. So again, where a lot of these cars came factory equipped with 0 degrees of caster, we're building in more forward caster into these control arms. And the behind the wheel feel, like I was mentioning with my pickup truck earlier, is absolutely incredible. It's a really good bang for the buck. They come with all new bushings. They come with all new ball joints, actually many of which have the QA1 low friction ball joint built into them. And they come powder coated black, ready to go. They look great right out of the box. So great option there. They'll bolt right up to the coilovers and the sway bars that you had previously upgraded. So there's no having to go back and change something that you've already done. It's just that systematic, unbolt it, bolt in your new ones, you're ready to go.
Nice and easy. So in a sense, you're upgrading, but you're really modernizing your suspension at this point. Why settle for that old vintage style suspension performance when you have all these great components available? And I think, as you mentioned earlier, the tires come into play, the sticky compounds, or the different cambers and casters, and that's really where that control arm comes into play. So following that, what's up next?
Well, after that, what we start to see is people are starting to push the limits of now the rear of the vehicle, right? Mm-hmm. So the front geometry is set. You got your front and rear coilovers on there. You got your sway bars, but you're still working off of those stamped steel trailing arms. And if you're familiar with a lot of the GM platforms throughout the years, and actually Ford had many that were very similar, you had a U-channel trailing arm that was designed to be just cranked out by the millions back in the day and essentially just hold the rear end in place. That's essentially all that they did. And now you have, you've upgraded the car from what maybe had 200 horsepower to 700 horsepower or maybe more, a lot of torque. Right. And you're going to start to stress those trailing arms in a way that you didn't before. And if you don't start upgrading those trailing arms, you're going to put them into bind, and you're going to ultimately potentially lead to a failure of that component. And so something that QA1 has done to solve that problem is we have a box trailing arm and also a tubular trailing arm version as well, depending if it's an upper or lower. But let's look at what we got here. So you have a trailing arm that's fully boxed. So you're essentially making a super strong component that a lot of people were trying to do with their OEM ones by boxing them in and trying to replace the bushings and all that stuff. But essentially, we've taken care of that for you. Again, brand new bushings. They're fully greasable as well, like many other components that we've talked about here today. But it's just a really nice out-of-the-box solution to an otherwise problem you're going to start to identify as you push that car further.
Okay. So box and tubular, kind of go back and forth, pros and cons there, and how you kind of assign it to different applications.
Yeah, so what we've done there is we've spent a lot of time with FEA, with our engineers, testing the loads that we can exert on our different products. And what we've typically found is for the lower trailing arms that a box design is preferred. It can withstand that strength that's desired, and it can in the loads that you're going to exert on. Now, tubular typically lends itself to the upper trailing arms, and we've done something there, though, where we do offer two different variants. So we have, again, we have a tubular that is fixed. It's the same length as OEM. And then we also have an adjustable version. Now, where the adjustable version comes into play is when you start to change your ride height, right? And if you change your ride height, you can picture how your pinion, your driveline angles are going to change. Now, what you're able to do with something like this now is you have this hex adjuster here in the middle, and all you got to do is adjust that hex adjuster to change the length, which ultimately will change your pinion angle. So whether you want that OE stock ride height, we have solutions there for you. Or, again, for that lowered stance, more modern pro touring type stance, we have that adjustable version that will solve those problems there.
Anything else then that you'd recommend on the recipe for modernizing your suspension piece by piece?
I think the biggest thing really is each person is going to build their car a different way. And I think it's important for people to first identify what is your end goal with the car, right? And establish that first so that you're not changing course midway to where then you're having to remove parts that you had previously installed or upgraded because now they don't work with the next sequence of parts you want to add after the fact. And so that's something that, again, the QA1 systems are so nice because whether you want to buy it as one part number and just have it all done, that's an option. Summit Racing has all those on the shelf ready to go. Or again, if your budget and the way you plan to build the car is better supporting you to kind of take things step by step, you can add each piece of the puzzle at the rate that you wish. And the beauty of it is we designed these in a way that it works with the OE part that you're mixing it with. So you're not forced to have to go back and take something off that you just invested your hard-earned money into.
Absolutely. It is important, though, to sort of have a plan in place as you go when you're doing it this way, even though you can sort of mix and match a little bit. I would be remiss if I didn't ask a little bit about the kits that you guys offer as well. We've talked about the components, but just talk a little bit about the options you have in system form.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm glad you brought that up because, again, it is a really popular way that people upgrade their car is just in the kit form. So something that QA1 has available is a full vehicle suspension kit that is front to rear, everything you need. This includes hardware. This includes every nut and bolt washer. But what it is, it's basically you have a choice of a drag race system or you have a choice of a handling-based system. So whether you're more of a pro touring type person. Now, within those kits, we have different levels of performance. And now I find this so incredibly important because we understand suspension is not a one-size-fits-all thing. I mean, everybody's building their car, like I said, with a different goal in mind. So depending on what level of performance you want, you can choose a QA1 system that has been pre-thought out by our team on what's going to make the best impact for your vehicle without you having to go through and do the homework of, is this part going to work with this? Is this part going to work with that? Well, I need other pieces of the puzzle that I can't see right now. We did all that for you. And so our full vehicle kits are a great way for you to upgrade your car. And we have those available, whether you're a Mopar fan, a Ford fan, GM, or even for the classic pickups, we have different full vehicle options for those as well. Through the C10 platform, we have a great kit there, F100s, and even your C1500 type pickups.
Yeah, you have tons of applications. I've seen those. Sneak peek on any upcoming applications you might be working on. What's next in the performance aftermarket for this type of stuff in your mind?
You know, they tend to try to keep that under close wraps, but I guess the only hint I could say is that vehicle sitting right there may or may not have a suspension kit coming here shortly, and you know, that might cover some of the mid to late or 65 to 70 GM platforms that are popular. So I'll leave it at that for right now.
All right, maybe some clues in the background there.
Yeah.
Dave, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for being a part of our virtual Super Summit. I really appreciate your time, and everybody out there, stay tuned for more great videos, and we'll talk soon. Dave, thanks again.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.